another video, and this time I'm talking about how to be a good critique partner. So I made another video about critique partner basics, things like where to find critique partners and what to look for in a critique partner, and if you haven't seen that, I will link that up here. But today I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into that topic. So I'm going to tell you 5 things I think you need in order to be a good critique partner. Number 1, you have to have good communication and be honest. If you promise that you would have something read in 2 weeks and you know you're not going to make the deadline, that's completely fine. You just have to be honest about it. Tell the critique partner that you have, I'm so sorry, I know I said I'd have it to you by Sunday, but work stuff came up, family stuff came up, or I just didn't get to it. I am so sorry. Can I have until Wednesday? Just let them know as soon as possible so they can adjust their expectations of you. Number 2 is give as much as you get. So if someone else has read 3 of your manuscripts and you've only read 1 chapter of one of their books, then that seems a little bit uneven. Now, of course, there's always differences in how this came about. Say they only wanted to send you 1 chapter of 1 book, but has kept on offering to read more of your full manuscripts. That is completely fine. That kind of goes into the whole communication thing. As long as they've communicated that they're willing to do that, that is fine. But if it's something like you haven't been giving them as much of your time as they have been giving to you, even though they've asked, or there was an agreement and you haven't been offering to them, then that's a little bit unfair, and it's just nice to at least offer. So even if they don't have something for you, say, hey, I'm still here available to read another manuscript. I so much appreciate you've read 3 of mine, and they still say, no, it's okay, I'm still working on something. That's fine. But if they were like, oh, whenever you have time, and you're like, oh no, I'm super busy, but here's another one of my manuscripts for you to read, then that's not nice. So yeah, it's all context and it's all understanding each other and communication, but an equal relationship makes happy critique partners. Number 3 is have realistic expectations. Just as much as you'd want someone to have realistic expectations of how long it would take you to read and provide notes as a critique partner, you should have realistic expectations of them as well. To ask someone to read a whole entire manuscript in 2 days and have full line edits back to you is not fair and not realistic. But saying, hey, can I get line edits back on this in 2 weeks? I know it's really tight, but I really need it. That's a fair request as long as you're providing it as a request and not a demand. So yes, be realistic and be fair of somebody else's time, because we're all writers, and at the end of the day, we should be spending just as much time on our writing as we are on reading each other's books. Number 4, the type of notes you're willing to provide. Now, this is a little bit part of the whole communicating thing, but I will say that there are different types of notes for you to provide your critique partner. I tend to give both big picture notes and line edits as I'm reading a manuscript, and that's just because if I see something that's spelled wrong, I can't help it, I want to fix it, so I do. And I do it as a track change so they can accept the track change or not. I do the same thing with things like you've used the same word twice in this sentence and it sounds weird, stuff like that. But that's not something that's always expected. It's just something that I like to provide. So at the beginning, what you can do is say, hey, this is the type of notes that I like to give. Is that okay, or do you need something else? What I generally tend to do, especially if it's with a newer critique partner, I'll say, are there any specific notes you need for this, or is there anything specific you'd like me to concentrate on? And they've come back with things as varied as, yes, can you just tell me if my prose is to this or that? Can you tell me if you see any plot holes? Can you tell me about the villain character arc? Or even asking me to sensitivity read for my culture. And I'm usually willing to do that as long as they tell me up front what they are expecting from me as a critique partner. And if I agree, then I will go forward and give notes like that. So number 5 is understand your limits and self-care. Say you think having more critique partners is better, right? More is better because critique partner A already read this manuscript, but critique partner B is waiting in the wings to give you some critique because they've been anxious to read this book. That sounds amazing, but after you get to critique partner C, D, E, F, G, then you should also be reading all of their manuscripts as well. So sometimes this can wear you thin. Sometimes it ends up that you are reading other people's manuscripts more than you are writing your own work, and that can be stressful for any writer. Now, big difference I will say, and this is from personal experience, is say you have all these critique partners, but they're all in the same group together. That means that they understand that everyone can offer to read anyone else's manuscript, and it's just a pool of people who you mutually respect and throw out the bat signal and say, hey, my young adult contemporary fantasy is ready to be read. Is anyone available? And people will raise their hands, and this is the understanding within the group. That is a little bit different, and I have two groups that are like that, and they're absolutely amazing, and I am so lucky to have them. So it is something to look into, making a full critique group with multiple people in it. But if you're the individual critique partner kind of person, then having 20 individual critique partners might be a bit draining on your energy and your creative time. So I would just say be aware of your own limits and take care of yourself too. So those are my 5 tips for how to be a good critique partner. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up or subscribe to this channel. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, or ideas for future videos you'd like me to make, I'd really appreciate a comment down below, or you can tweet at me at CatShow, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!